you guys, Robert here, and welcome to episode 23 of Monthly Submission Rankings, where I rank tracks that you submit to me every single month. And for this episode, I'm going to be ranking your favorite colorful songs. For anyone confused, colorful songs in the context of this series are simply songs with the names of colors in the title. Colors are undeniably very fascinating things, so it always catches my eye when I see the name of a color, like, red, yellow, blue, etc., in the name of a song. And I'm especially fascinated with the quality of y'all submissions overall. 20 people submitted to this episode, and because one song was submitted by 2 people, this resulted in 19 songs I'll be talking about in this video, and not 20. And even though this is obviously way less than last time, it's not going to stop me from saying that a lot of the songs that were sent to me are at least good stuff in my opinion. And I cannot wait to talk about all 19 tracks in this video. Unlike the last episode, there were some songs that were sent to me, but were disqualified for one reason or another. Mainly because they don't have the name of a color in the title, but rather the word color or colors in the title. Here's a list of them on screen now. Like usual, you all know how these videos work. This ranking is just my own subjective opinion, and it's all based on how much I enjoyed these songs as a whole. Also, don't feel bad if your submission didn't do well, there's always next time. Remember not to take this very seriously, because at the end of the day, we're all here to have fun. Music's a fun time, I do love me some good music, you know? This ranking is also not set in stone or anything, as some songs may have the potential to grow or shrink on me more than others. Heck, I might not even agree with the ranking later. If you have any feedback for the series, whether it be positive or negative in a constructive way, feel free to leave it down in the comments. So yeah, I have nothing much to say. Now without any further ado, this is Monthly Submission Rankings, episode 23, your favorite colorful songs. Enjoy! Number 19, Charles Hotel, Blueberry Jam. What the hell am I listening to? I mean, I do appreciate people who submit their own songs to me on occasion, but yeah, I'm sorry, this thing is terrible. Not only does it sound like it was poorly produced and mixed, but it also has this LMFAO type of self-awareness to it that I really just can't stand. It's like he knows and acknowledges that it is unlistenable garbage, but he goes through with it anyway. In other words, he's just trying to be bad on purpose. I know this sounds a bit cruel coming from me because I don't want to look like I'm punching down on his music too hard, and I'm sure he's got better stuff than this, but it doesn't prevent me from saying that his commentary throughout the track is obnoxious, the breakbeats, guitars, and vocal samples are not anything to write home about, and this song can't even last 2 minutes, making this feel unfinished on top of being absolutely terrible. I suppose it could get a good laugh out of me when I just turn my no good music critiquing brain off, but musically and subjectively speaking, I don't think it's very good at all. Sorry, Cander, but no on this. Number 18, Mao Zedong, Red Sun in the Sky. And here's the first meme song I'll be talking about in this video. Anyways, I have very conflicting thoughts on this one. On one hand, the ideas and foundational elements behind this one are not too shabby, as the interpretation nails down the stereotypical Chinese sound pretty well, as well as having some nice sounding melodies, especially towards the beginning, that get stuck in my brain for some time upon hearing them. And a female singer whose vocals are pretty solid, and she delivers some semblance of personality because of it. But on the other hand, the problem lies in the production and mixing, as I'm not really a fan of this song's compression, and it's also unfortunately a bit of a slog to get through at times. It's cool, kind of funny even, for maybe only the first 10 to 30 seconds, and then it gets a bit uninteresting afterwards, as there aren't a lot of things pertaining to the elements of this track that have me super invested or anything like that, and my attention kind of trails off a bit as a result. Overall, it's an average song to me. While it does succeed at being a gimmicky song, and while I also do understand it was only for the memes and the laughs, it's not really something special outside of that. If I were to give this song a score out of at least 100 points, this song would only get like
50 points for me, dog.
Next, number 17, High Five, Living in a Rainbow. If you thought I wasn't talking about at least one song from a kids show this time, you were wrong. In comes High Five, an Australian kids group who had their own show of the same name that originally aired from 1999 to 2011 on the 9 Network, before bringing back the show on 9 Go 6 years later for only a month in 2017. The song from them I'll be reviewing is Living in a Rainbow, which is, actually pretty decent. I'm actually serious. I think it's pretty tolerable. Now that's a huge jump in quality from the previous track to this. I kind of find this to be decent in the same way I found the Wiggles' Hot Potato to be decent. And I had to bring it up because the person who submitted this song to me was also the same guy who submitted Hot Potato 3 episodes ago. And sure, the organ that plays in some parts kind of sounds cheesy, but I also do appreciate the sing-along vibe the group was going for, while also not falling in the same trap of being too generic for my liking, like with Joy to the World from the last episode. And the chorus is kind of catchy too. Living in a rainbow, colors everywhere. all in all, while it may be a simple ass track, because yeah, it's a high five song, why would it not be? And I don't see myself returning to this because listening to children's music on a frequent basis is not my thing whatsoever. I still come out of it feeling like it's fine whenever I hear it. I don't think it's that bad. Again, I think it's pretty decent. Number 16, Eiffel 65, Blue Dabba Dee. And now we have already reached the properly good stuff. And of course we are starting that off with Italian Eurodance group Eiffel 65 and their 1998 single Blue Dabba Dee, which is undeniably one of the most iconic songs of all time. Even though I don't think this is a stone cold masterpiece in the world of dance music or anything, and it does have its fair share of flaws, I still think this is actually perfectly good, albeit just a bit corny for its own sake. Released as the lead single to the 1999 debut album Europop, Eiffel 65 tells the story about a man who lives in a blue world as implied by the intro to this song. Blue Dabba Dee also explains that almost everything the man owns is blue, including his house, his car, anything you can think of, even the trees are blue. And man, who can deny this chorus? I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die, dabba dee dabba die, dabba dee dabba die. Although the production hasn't aged the best compared to some of the other tracks we will be seeing later on in this ranking, and even though the songwriting on this thing is far from smart, with Rolling Stone calling the chorus so infantile it makes the Teletubbies sound like Shakespeare, they are away with words, aren't they? That memorable chorus kind of makes me ignore any possible gripes I may have with this single. And that piano riff is also memorable and fun to listen and hum along to as well. Look, I know this track has been polarizing for many years now, especially during the time it came out, but I cannot lie to you when I say that it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. It's a pity that David Guetta and BB Rexa turned it into, this abomination. But still, in my opinion, pretty good song. Number 15, Ronnie Size and Represent, Brown Paper Bag. From one of the most successful and well-known dance songs in history, we move on to something a little more niche. Next up, we have British urban-based collective Ronnie Size and Represent, who won the Mercury Music Prize in 1997 for their debut album over here, New Forms, which also went 5 times platinum. Damn! Despite this, I never heard of these guys until Brown Paper Bag, the second track on New Forms, was submitted to me, and after hearing it, I can confirm that it's pretty solid. It's not what I would call a top-tier drum and bass track in the grander scheme of things, and I would also be lying if I said that I didn't feel the 9-minute length on this one, but I still think it's enjoyable regardless. I like the little guitar in the beginning going up against a cool sounding cello and a filtering beat, as it gives me a bunch of spy movie vibes right from the get-go. And those high-pitched string sounding synths also sound really cool and add on to the vibes this track is pulling off quite well. The best aspect of this track though is the beat itself, where it sounds like it goes for a halftime approach for the first 2 minutes or so, before it goes all off later on, giving the listener a true drum and bass feel in the process. Other elements of this track I found interesting include some electric pianos, occasional funky synth melodies, neat vocal samples, and that really nice breakdown at the 5/16 mark that adds a bit more depth to this track. Not much more I can say about this one except it's a bop. Nice one. Number 14, Serious Mo, Red Knob. And here's another artist whose music I haven't given a listen to until the making of this video. Serious Mo, real name Moritz Friedrich, sorry for the off pronunciation right there, is a German sample-based electronic music producer from Berlin who was initially influenced by the likes of Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Squarepusher, and Aphex Twin. He was also a part of a group called Sirius, but then left after having been bored of playing the same songs, therefore going by the stage name Serious Mo, which is, you know, the band name Sirius plus the first 2 letters of his real name. Pretty clever stage name I have to say given his background. But he's also released 4 solo albums, with the sophomore album Mosaic being the one we're focusing on. Red Knob is the one that's being tasked with closing out the album, and I can also attest to this song being pretty solid all around. Might border on being properly great if I'm in the right mood. This is very nicely produced from front to back, as I like the way it begins with these synths that do definitely remind me of Aphex Twin's Druk use quite a bit, specifically the track Zygomatic 17, and given that that track is my second favorite track from that artist, that is most definitely a good sign. I also think it's brilliant how the synths later turn into outer sounding ones, and it goes up against some neat pianos as well as the whole hip-hop-esque interpretation super well, but the hip-hop vibes are only present throughout the first half of this track, as the second half gets even better for me. The track goes for a more house approach from the 137 mark onwards, and I'd say that's a very nice change of pace in my opinion, especially when it goes up against the aforementioned pianos and synths in a very interesting way. I also love that little shaker too. It may just be only one small part of this track, but it also gives off a Latin vibe to it that I also really do appreciate. I also like the way it ends with the Aphex Twin-ish synths we got at the very beginning, making this become another one of those tracks where it feels like it could go full circle. Overall, there's a lot to like about this track for sure. Production is nice, instruments are well layered and also nice, everything about it is solid. Very good stuff. Number 13, Ween, Pink Eye, On My Leg. Guys, I know what you're thinking. What? A track from Ween's The Mollusk in the bottom half of the ranking? What's this kind of ridiculous you're trying to pull off, Robert? All kidding aside, Ween is, by all accounts, one of the weirdest bands out there. But the fact they have such an odd sound is part of the charm. And on this track, Pink Eye on My Leg, their weirdness factor is successfully displayed to the listener in full force, even if it isn't a huge standout on the album from my perspective. I really like the vibes of this whole track too, as after listening to it, I can just imagine an alternate universe where it was used in a rip-off to the 3D SpongeBob games from way back when. Also ironic because, you know, Ocean Man, but whatever. More than anything, the slow but plodding drums that go alongside some very cool guitars, goofy wavering synths, and some wind noises makes me feel like I'm on a beach where everything there just defies logic altogether. The dog barking noises and the noises may also sound a bit random, but it adds on to the odd atmosphere pretty superlatively, which is, again, part of this band's charm. I don't really have much more to say about this one, but I also think this one is really nice. Even if it isn't my absolute favorite track on the Mollusk, especially when you also got Ocean Man, The Blarney Stone, and Buckingham Green, I still recommend giving this a listen if you want to hear how goofy Ween can get. Number 12. Iki Monogakari, Bluebird. Well, here's a series first. Never thought I'd see the day where I get a chance to talk about a song from a piece of anime of all medias, but here we are. Ikimoto Kakari are a Japanese rock band who have been active since 1999, and their track Bluebird not only appeared on their third album from 2008, My Song Your Song, as the third track on it, but it was also prominently featured in Naruto Shippuden's opening sequence. See what I'm talking about with the anime thing? Anyways, I give this track a listen out of context, and is it good? In my opinion, yes. Yes, it is good. I mean, what can I say? Japan makes some good music, man. I really like the catchy and energetic nature of this song a lot, as the drummer contrasting well with some harmonicas and guitars does a good job of putting me in a very good mood. Furthermore, the charisma the lead singer delivers is absolutely commendable, the guitar solo at the 220 mark sounds really cool too, and the way the song ends with only just a harmonica as well as an organ just makes for a really nice sense of finality that this track most definitely needed. Now, I don't watch TV much at all these days because of me constantly being on my computer, whether it be making music or doing videos or some other thing, but this track makes me want to watch the Naruto anime in its entirety in one sitting, even though it's unfortunately impossible for me to do that. Other than that, this track is also very, very solid too. Check it out. Number 11. Boards of Canada, Oscar See Through Red Eye. Well, what do you know? Welcome back again, boys. Anyways, we have already reached the great stuff, starting with Boards of Canada, a legendary British electronic music duo who needs no further introduction whatsoever. Last time I talked about a track of theirs in this series in detail was back in episode 19, which was on your favorite Warp Records songs, where I talked about Everything You Do Is a Balloon, a track from my favorite EP of all time, High Scores. But now we're talking about these guys again here, this time being a track from the Campfire Headface, their third album from 2005. And even though it would be my personal bottom half of their discography when we're only talking about their 4 mainline albums, especially since Music Has the Right to Children and GeoGaddy are among some of my favorite albums of all time, I still think this album is pretty great all around, and also a nice immediate return to form to the sense of innocence and childlike wonder that they have displayed on their debut, while also zeroing in on more organic musical elements and conventional song structures, a far cry from the hellish and nightmarish themes that were being brought forth to us on GeoGaddy. With all that said, while I can't say this track is truly my absolute favorite track from the Campfire Headface, I also can say that this is still a highlight on here for me too. The feelings of relaxation that I get from this track cannot be understated, as the low-key synths at the start do set the tone for what to expect in this track quite well, and they also sound really beautiful. To add on to the list of positive things I have for this track, the beat that pops in a few seconds after the aforementioned synths is also such a vibe. And I also love how there are also some occasional blippy synths that also kind of go up and down in this sort of like cascading effect. Furthermore, the melodies and atmosphere in general are definitely as good as always, as I love how the breakdown 2 minutes in really allows the synths to cut through in a way that is fairly poignant. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say beyond that. Despite there not being a lot going on throughout its 5-minute run, it's still a great showcase of the happy and accessible side of Boards of Canada sound, and also a great demonstrator of what the Campfire Headface delivers instrumentally. I will admit that there are better tracks of theirs out there, especially compared to a certain track you'll be seeing later on, but this is still a great track both inside and outside of the album, and I highly recommend giving it a listen. Number 10. AC/DC, Back in Black. And the classics keep on coming once again. Kicking off the top 10 is none other than world-famous Australian hard rock band AC/DC, who are known for hit songs of theirs like Thunderstruck, Highway to Hell, TNT, and this one, Back in Black, which appeared under a 1980 album of the same name, and it is absolutely great. I mean, it's pretty much a given at this point that this is one of their best, but yeah, I also do very much agree with the hype for this one. Dude, this one just goes so hard. From the opening guitar riff to Brian Johnson's fired up vocal performance to the fire-ass guitar solo halfway through, everything about it is very well executed and never fails to put me in a pumped up state. Especially the unforgettable melodies in the verses which never leave my brain ever. As badass as this track sounds though, this one unfortunately has a pretty depressing undertone to it. And that's because this song was written as a tribute to the previous vocalist Bon Scott, who tragically passed away from a suspected heroin overdose a few months before the song was released. However, I have to really applaud them for the way they overcame Scott's death on this song, and this is clear as crystal in the first verse. Specifically the lines, "Yes, I'm let loose from the noose, that's kept me hanging about." This set of lines tells us that he is no longer worried about his past, but is instead feeling good about moving on to what's in store for him in the great beyond. That's what I love about songs like this. The fact that they're using clever wordplay and instrumentation like this to cope with this huge loss is undeniably respectable. If anything, this really goes to show that Scott would have wanted the band to simply do nothing but keep going. And that's something I find to be very special about this song. But even being divorced from his death, this song still holds up from a composition and instrumental standpoint, and it's not hard to see why it was used in movies, TV shows, and the like, because this track is unequivocally one of their best tracks to date. Despite this though, we have now only reached the halfway point of the list, and things will continue to go up from here as to be expected. Now let's continue on with the list with number 9, Ethan and Spillstain, White Palace. You know, I always do love me some underrated gems from no-name EDM artists, and this is an example of that. This song, created by producers Ethan and Spillstain, appeared on the compilation album Warriors Volume 4, being the longest track on there as well as being the one that closes out the whole thing. And yeah, I can confirm that this track is great from start to finish upon giving it its first play. This is truly one of the best and most dynamic glitch hop-esque tracks I've heard in recent memory. The way the piano melody contrasts with some high-pitched pads while also simultaneously making this cohesive transition to a sea of strings a few seconds later is so stunning. I feel as though it's heavily reminiscent of the sounds of the closing track on Sakura Burst's Deconstructing Nature, and given that it's one of my favorite albums of the entire 2010s decade, that's really saying a lot. And that's all before we get a hard-hitting drop at the 106 mark, which had me headbanging like a maniac over and over again till Kingdom Come. The insanely dope beats going up against the soaring synths just makes for such a nice groove. It really has me interested in hearing this in the live setting too, because I'm sure this would go off in that kind of setting. Other aspects of this track I really enjoy include the vocals around 2 minutes in, the arpeggiated-ish melodies nearly 3 minutes in, and also this chaotic second drop that is somehow even more hard-hitting than the first one. Oh my freaking god! Overall, this track is pretty stellar stuff. The build-ups are immaculate, the drops are great. This is damn near excellent stuff through and through. Make sure you go check this one out too. Number 8, Deftones, Pink Maggot. Well, it's that time again, everyone. Talking about some good old metal, baby. Next up for discussion is Sacramento, California's very own beloved alternative metal band, Deftones. They managed to get a dedicated fan base through the releases of their first 2 albums, Adrenaline and Around the Fur in 1995 and 1997 respectively, and even reached further success with their third album, White Pony, in 2000, which saw a transition away from their earlier, more aggressive sound into a more experimental direction, resulting in widespread critical acclaim and even becoming the band's highest-selling album to date, being certified gold 3 months after its release on September 7th, before eventually becoming their first platinum record certified by the RIAA 2 years later on July 17th, 2002. And while on the topic of experimentalism, some critics even call them the Radiohead of metal, because of this album's experimental nature, which, damn, that's a high praise. But that high praise is certainly for very good reason too, as I also think this album's excellent. What I love about this album is how mature it is compared to the last 2 albums. That obviously does not make those releases bad, they're both good at the very least, but the experimental palette that they have brought to the table via White Pony really shows them growing significantly as artists, while also having the great tunes to back itself up. From Digital Bath to Night Party, there's definitely a lot to love about this album, and the closing track, Pink Maggot, is another one of the best tracks of the bunch. First off, the instrumentation is incredible. Every single element about this track is really cleverly employed on here. The overall dynamics of this song are impeccable, and Chino Moreno's vocal delivery throughout is also great. I love the way it all starts with the distorted electric guitars getting gradually more louder before the song just basically goes the fuck up at the 2:44 mark. Also, the way the song ends with just a slow heartbeat pattern made for one of the most interesting endings to a song I've heard in my life. The accolades I have for this song don't end here though, as the lyricism is on point too. According to Genius, this song is, quote, about the first day of school, but these lyrics hint that maybe there's something more to them, end quote. And you know what? Maybe there is more to these lyrics, because in this opening part of the song, the speaker is fed up with feeling helpless and miserable. He has made the choice to extinguish the part of himself that he believes is preventing him from fulfilling his potential as a person, with the fire representing pain itself, while also possibly referring to being belittled by others. The first chorus sees him virtually killing off the inner coward within him with the lines, "Now that you've kneed her in the throat, well there you go, because back in school, we are the leader of all." The second chorus mostly contains the same lines as the first chorus, except this time the speaker is convinced that killing off his inner weakness was the right call, and that's implied by the lines, "Now that you need her, but you don't." So there you go, because back in school, we are the leaders of all. The outro sees the band make a powerful statement because at the end of the day, we are all the same large chunks of meat that deteriorate gradually as time goes on. From another angle, this might actually be freeing, despite the fact that it may appear dismal at first. Well, that was a lot to break down. Probably the longest I've ever taken to review a song in the series, if I'm being honest. But man, this track is great. Not only is it damn near fantastic from an instrumental aspect, but the poignant songwriting that's being demonstrated really does elevate the song a ton, and it makes for one of the most persuasive statements I've heard in alternative metal to date. Great stuff. Number 7. The Orb, White River Junction. Now this is where things get truly excellent. Some of you may be familiar with these guys because of my reactions to Searman's Mega Collab videos on them from way back when, but if you aren't, The Orb are an English electronic music duo from London who are well known for the signature science fiction aesthetics that was first shown on earlier albums of theirs, like their 1991 debut album The Orb's Adventures Beyond the Ultra World, and its 1992 follow-up, UF Orb, making them be very influential in the world of ambient techno, dub, chill out, and dance. But let's fast forward to 3 years later in 1995 when their third album, Orbis Terrarum, was released. Now, Orbis Terrarum is an album that serves as a continuation of those aforementioned science fiction and electronic aesthetics that have been explored in their first two albums, while also going for a slightly more massive sound. And I think they have, of course, succeeded in that. In fact, this album is my second favorite Orb album, just behind Ultra World. I love how every track has a distinct identity apart from each other, while also contributing to the atmosphere of this project. Not only that, but it's also proof that they are really versatile artists, because while Ultra World and UF Orb show them at their most spacey sound design-wise, Orbis Terrarum, on the other hand, feels more like an attempt to capture the sounds of what would it feel like to walk through an ancient temple. And I think they also executed that brilliantly. And what a better way to showcase what this album's all about than by talking about one of the standouts, White River Junction. This track, along with Plateau, nails the ancient temple vibes on the head tremendously, while also justifying its 9.5-minute length. The nature sounds at the beginning are mixed very well with the vocal samples to create such a calming atmosphere. Furthermore, the pads that come in a little over 2 minutes in are extremely alluring and calming as well. And the way the slow and plodding beat comes in later on is pretty well executed too. There are also so many other elements to this track that makes this feel meticulously detailed despite being released in the mid-90s that it's actually insane. This includes a super dope rumbly bass line, some other melodies that happen throughout that are also interesting, and also the ending of this track where you also get some more ambient synth passages as well as another random vocal sample that does not feel out of place at all. I know my discussion focused more on the album and less on the track itself, but it also doesn't prevent me from calling it one of their best tracks to date. Right up there with the likes of not just Plateau, but also a huge ever-growing pulsating brain, Soul Planet, Little Fluffy Clouds, Toxigene, and lots more. Awesome track for sure. Number 6. Opeth, Blackwater Park. Time for some more metal, although this time we're switching to the more progressive side of things with this genre. Opeth are a Swedish metal band formed in 1990 in Stockholm, and they are noted for incorporating folk, blues, classical, and jazz elements into their usually lengthy tracks, as well as being greatly influenced by death metal music. They have also released a total of 13 studio albums, with their 5th album, Blackwater Park, being the one we're paying close attention to. This album was also made in collaboration with Porcupine Tree frontman Steven Wilson, which is always awesome since, Porcupine Tree are really cool, man. However, the one track from this album I'm going to be discussing is obviously the closing 12-minute title track for this thing, which, yeah, it is goddamn excellent. To start, I love this track's sense of imagery, as this song is about a village where sin, corruption, and disease have taken control of it, while the narrator is witnessing the events that unfold as a result of humanity's evil doings obliterating the world. The first 2 lines of this verse are a perfect indicator of this, as according to Genius, the intro sums up the state of the village. The sins of man have brought it to the state it is in. And then we have these lyrics, which bear strong similarities to a chapter in Titus Lucretius Carus' 6th book of De Rerum Natura, called The Plague in Athens, describing in gory detail the historic event already reported by the Greek historian Thucydides way before Lucretius' time. And I think it fits with this track's themes very well too. The last part in the lyrics I want to talk about are these last 2 lines of the whole song, where it's simply telling the listener that at some point, every person on the planet will reveal the truth that has always been there. And at that point, everyone will obligingly contribute to their own demise. Future days will never come, because as the sun sets on Blackwater Park, humanity's existence comes to an end. God, that sounded so metal, man. And yet we haven't even gotten to the instrumentation itself yet, which is equally as outstanding as the songwriting is. There's not a lot for me to say about this one when it boils down to the instrumentation itself, but the drumming is intense in a great way, the guitars are fantastic, especially towards the end, the lead vocals are really cool without it sounding too overbearing for my tastes, and the overall dystopian and dark atmosphere is surely incredible. Heck, this whole track sounds incredible, and it generally makes me want to listen to some more Opeth after hearing this. Amazing. Number 5. Tan's music, Blue. Man, talk about a mid-90s gem, Jesus Christ. Next up is Tan's Music, who I'm assuming is a Japanese electronic music collective who I've never heard of until this deep cut from their 1996 album Scratches was submitted to me. And yeah, as you can tell from what I said at the beginning of this segment, this track is so amazingly stunning from head to toe. I love how this track starts with some reversed samples contrasting very ably with some FSOL-esque blippy synth melodies, and that's before we get a very soothing piano as well as a nice bass line that honestly makes me feel so warm inside. I feel as though I've been given the nicest hug in the world. And the hi-hats and claps that take up the bulk of the track are very SAW 85 to 92-ish in the best way, and then it has this kind of steady feel to it, and for some reason that vibraphone melody at the end of this track hits me and it feels good and hard. I don't know what it is about that, man, but it really does hit me right here in the heart, and the fact that I'm also a sucker for vibraphones nowadays also helps. Unfortunately, despite all that, there's not a whole lot I can say about the track beyond that due to its microscopic progression. Honestly, it might be the shortest number 5 segment I've ever came up with for this series because of it, but who really gives a shit at the end of the day, because I'm extremely pleased with what I got out of it. I'm remarkably impressed with it, especially since this is my introduction to Tan's music in general. Because of that and a host of other things, I'm really intrigued in hearing their other stuff, because overall, this track is everything I would want a track that has such a minimal scope in production and sound design to sound like. Absolutely go give this a spin. Number 4. Coldplay, Yellow. And on the topic of tracks that make me feel warm inside, this one. Also, this band being in the number 4 spot, that sounds familiar. Insert MSR 20 flashbacks here. Anyways, Coldplay need no introduction. They're pretty much one of the most iconic rock bands of all time, and also one of the most interesting at that, as it seems they've always been going for a different sound on nearly every project of theirs. Although I'm inclined to like their early albums that were released in the 2000s more than their later period work starting from Milo Xyloto onwards. And that's because Parachutes in particular is in my top 3 favorite albums from the band alongside A Rush of Blood to the Head and Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends. That's really saying something when you think about it, because I think it's by far their least adventurous and least out there album. It doesn't expand on its post-Britpop sound like A Rush of Blood, it doesn't go for all these space rock aesthetics like X and Y, it doesn't go for fairly larger than life stylings like Viva La Vida. It's pretty much what I believe to be their most normal album. In a way, that's strangely the thing about this album that I've come to love over the years. Even though there are other albums of theirs that I could say are more commendable for taking the risk they've taken with the approaches to their sounds, at the same time, it is also one of the most authentic sounding albums they've come up with. And the best example of that is my favorite song on the album, as well as the song that put them on the map in the first place, Yellow. And yeah, I can see why this one song got the accolades that it has deservedly gotten over the years, because this is definitely a fantastically well-written song right there. The warm atmosphere behind this track is incredible, as not only is the instrumentation throughout very on point, but there is also something about Chris Martin's vocal delivery that totally works, because it truly allows him to sell what he's saying in the best way he can with the help of the song's lyrics, which we will get to in just a moment. But first, don't mind me bringing out the music theory addict in me for the third straight episode in a row, because musically speaking, the ending of this track is also pretty sublime. This song is in the key of B major, and throughout the verses, it starts from the 1 chord first, B major, then it goes to the 5 chord, F sharp major, and finally to the 4 chord, E major, before it resolves back to 1. The outro has mostly the same chords, except this time you have the minor 5 chord, in this case F sharp minor, in place of the regular major 5 chord, which sort of has this Mixolydian feel to it, allowing this track to have an even warmer sound than before, and dude, no words could describe what that part does to me, man. It's fucking great. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the song's lyrics, which are, again, written brilliantly. I will only briefly break them down this time because I've talked a lot in this segment as it is already, but the first verse sees the narrator being mesmerized by what the person they're singing for is doing before taking his chance by going on a date with her. The chorus is a great reminder that we become beautiful people once we are looked at from a comprehensive point of view, while the second verse sees Chris using metaphors to describe the things that he would do for this girl, especially with with these first two lines, I swam across, I jumped across for you. And yeah, that's finally everything I have to say about this song. The lyrics themselves may be a bit memeable at times, but the incredible instrumentation coupled with Chris Martin's passionate and sincere vocal performance just makes for not only one of their best ever songs, but also one of the best romantic songs in the history of rock music. Excellent. Number 3, Boards of Canada, Roy G. Biv. And just like that, we have finally made it to the podium picks. And what a better way to start that off than by talking about Boards of Canada for the second time in this video. But instead of focusing on the Campfire Head phase, how about we turn back in time to the year 1998 so we can focus on their debut album. Music Has the Right to Children has been regarded by many to be a landmark in the world of electronic music, and I cannot deny the hype behind this one either. The chill and childlike wonder tinge to it, coupled with its brilliant subtleties, made for one of the most unique experiences I've had with electronic music, period. From Turquoise Hexagon Sun to Happy Cycling to An Eagle in Your Mind to especially Aquarius, this album is beyond fun to listen to from start to finish, and I will always be forever grateful for albums like this that have helped me continue to expand my taste in electronic music in general, especially when it all boils down to IDM itself. It cannot be understated just how mind-blowing it is that this record is 25 years old, and yet it still sounds so fresh in the year of our Lord 2023. And as much as I love those 3 tracks that I just mentioned, we're instead going to be bringing our attention to another one of my favorites from the album, the short but sweet Roy G. Biv. And yes, that actually counts, since Roy G. Biv stands for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, but one of the things that this track has accomplished that made it secure a spot in my top 3 is living up to its title, because it is still one of the most colorful and palatable tracks I have ever heard. First off, that bass line that opens the track up continues to be one of the sickest things ever conceived. And second, the beat is also sick, the interplay between the lovely pianos and innocent sounding synth melodies is pretty immaculate, and who can forget that sample of the little girl going, "Say?" You'd think there'd be more to note about this track from an instrumental standpoint, but nope, that's pretty much it. It's only a measly 2.5 minutes, and that's all there is to it. And yet it continues to leave an impression on me by hitting that sweet, emotionally euphoric spot, while even making me feel like I can listen to it for minutes upon minutes without ever getting sick of it. Hell, I could even listen to this all day if I wanted to. Overall, Roy G. Biv is such a stunning cut from beginning to end, and it is one of the best examples of why BOC and this particular album are as legendary as they are. Still a damn near masterpiece, I cannot lie. Number 2, My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade. Attention all emos, please rise for your national anthem. All jokes aside, My Chemical Romance are another one of the most well-known rock bands out there, being one of the bands that defined emo rock. What a person's favorite MCR album is obviously subjective, just like the enjoyment of music for the most part. Most people will point to this album, The Black Parade, while many others consider the album that preceded this, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, to be their best album. And personally, I'm in the former camp. The Black Parade is undoubtedly the album of theirs I get the most enjoyment out of, featuring amazingly well-executed songs like Teenagers, Disenchanted, and the track I'm about to discuss, Welcome to the Black Parade, which is unsurprisingly a marvelous little 5-minute number, as you can tell from where I placed this track here. The Black Parade is also a concept album centering around the patient who was a dying character with cancer. Frontman Gerard Way once said in an interview, "I like to think that when you die, death comes for you however you want, and I feel that it's your strongest memory, either from childhood or adulthood." In the case of this particular song, the patient's strongest memory was when his father took him to this so-called Black Parade back when he was just a child, and this is most evident in the intro, where Way's beliefs about one's strongest memory being able to take them to the afterlife kick into high gear with these first 2 lines, followed by a few more lines about his father asking him to overcome difficulties in his life, as well as him saying that he will soon pass away and become a part of the paranormal procession that takes the patient to the great beyond. First one sees the narrator referring to she as the personification of death, while also feeling like he's insignificant. Now for everyone's favorite part, the chorus, where it seems to have a double meaning. The first 4 lines could either mean one of 2 things. 1, the world will continue without the patient after he passes away, or 2, even in death, the patient will maintain his independence and convictions. While the second verse basically just reminds us that there is more to life than death, the bridge sees someone speaking negatively to the patient, attempting to lower his mood even more while he's thinking back on his favorite experience. Now the breakdown part of the song is where things get really meaty. In this part, not only is he implying that although others are free to do as they choose, he will remain true to himself and continue to pursue his goals, but he also does not let the fact that he's dying keep him from playing his part in the world, while simultaneously not showing any shame by saying that he's led a messed up life. Yep, all that, and we still haven't gotten to the instrumentation itself yet, which is still impressive from front to back. Gerard Way's vocal performance in general is amazing, and that piano melody is something you never forget once you hear it. On top of that, the triumphant marching snare drums that begin and end the song are cool. The guitars are also awesome and cut through like a sharp obsidian sword. The way the tempo shifts in some parts is really clever, and the way they manage to modulate the key by a whole step by the end of it is also just so terrific. I have no words for it. Overall, this song is not just excellent when it comes to all the instruments interplay with each other, it's also a lyrically on-point song that teaches us that by not giving up, staying true to your dreams, and persevering past sorrow, you are becoming the hero many people wanted you to be. In a way, this song is so good, I am inspired. That's really the power of this operatic rock masterpiece that will continue to be celebrated for many more years to come. Still though, even after the myriad of descriptions I gave to the song, only one track on this ranking tops it. And that one is... And finally, number 1, Haken, Red Giant. Well, what do you know, a song with my favorite girl in the title got the number 1 spot. Guess I'm a biased motherfucker, huh? But honestly, I don't really care. This is one of the best rock songs I've heard in recent memory, if not of all time. And that says a lot considering the fact that up until this point, I don't think I've ever checked this English progressive metal band stuff out. However, I will have to do that soon because after hearing this 6-minute track of theirs that appeared on their 2016 album Affinity, I was strongly impressed by it. I was floored by not only the track's spellbinding and hard-hitting instrumentation, but also by how well the lyrics of the song itself complement said instrumentation. Lyrically, this song is about climate change, and I think this track's instrumental backbone does really help the band a ton with spinning out the messages they're trying to convey. I suppose the climate change themes are most notably conveyed in the first verse, where the song is telling us that the sun is one of the most important things that protects us all, but the narrator is prepared to witness the Earth slowly go into the downward spiral that it is in right now. The first chorus reminds us that as the Earth is spinning on its axis year after year, we are essentially contributing to the negative effects of our planet's climate system, whether it be by means of fossil fuel use, deforestation, or other practices that add to greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane, even though they don't explicitly mention these things in the lyrics. While verse 2 sees the narrator questioning what will be remembered after Earth essentially becomes a hellish landscape, the second chorus on the other hand sees a communion being described as an intimate fellowship. By giving up on our relationships with nature, technology, and other people, the world, which Greek mythology refers to as Gaia, would turn into a depressing place full of emotionally devoid, resentful people. Lastly, in the outro to the song, the band nailed down the climate change messages for a final time by letting us know that as time passes by, our planet will slowly but surely never be the same again. But regardless of the dreams that we make becoming fragile, they will hopefully be remembered for the rest of time. So those are the lyrics, and now time to divert our attention to the instrumentation itself, which is, like I said before, absolutely phenomenal. Sorry for sounding like a broken record at this point, but I once again love the guitars on this one, especially when they get more powerful in the second half of the track along with the drumming. And speaking of the drumming, I think it's unique in a great way as I think the 3/4-ish groove is well played throughout. Furthermore, the vocals are amazing, especially from lead singer Ross Jennings, and I absolutely adore how the song entered the 5/14 mark where we just get nothing but some bassy electric guitars that are kind of treated like dark ambient pads, as well as some occasional and tonally higher sounding electric guitar licks here and there, representing how desolate the world has become after we have stripped away any good this planet had left. And yeah, all in all, this song is what I would call a masterpiece. Not only does this song sound so perfect in general, but this is also a lyrically on point and relevant song that is a perfect reminder that the time to make the efforts to save our planet is now. The longer we wait for that perfect opportunity to do so, the less time we have left before we watch the Earth go through some irreversible environmental consequences. The terrible things we're continuing to do to our planet will be one of the things that will ultimately be the end to us all. And as scary as it sounds, these lyrics are perfect exemplifiers of that, and I'm grateful that we as humans are continuing to make great art while we still can. Therefore, because of its incredible instrumentation and relevant messaging, it gets the prestigious #1 spot, even if it's only by a slight margin. Incredible stuff right here. And that was my ranking proper. Thanks to everyone who has submitted, it is greatly appreciated, and damn, despite the fact that this is the least amount of songs I covered since I started writing scripts for these videos, this is one of the best batch of tracks I've been sent my way yet. Only one bad song here, one mess song, one decent song, and the remaining 16 songs were at least good stuff. Part of me wanted to see Aphex Twin's Blue Calx or Prince's Purple Rain here, but I think it would have made too much sense in hindsight, especially since the latter probably would have been my actual #1 had I covered it here. But yeah, other than that, let's keep it up with the excellent quality, everyone. The next episode, episode 24, will be on your favorite and least favorite songs of 2023. The links to the forums for MSR 24 will be in the description down below and also in the pinned comments as per usual. And the forums will both be closing on Thursday, December 6th, 2023 at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I'm pretty much looking forward to seeing how many people submit to this, because 2023 has become a great year for music over time. But I also want to do a little twist this time around by also talking about what you guys think are your least favorite songs from this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys sent to me this time. So yeah, submit to the forum if you're interested, links in the description, pinned comments. But yeah, we've made it to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like, share this one with your friends if you want to, and leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe as we're on the road to 9,000 subscribers. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys.